Discovering Chinese dramas in 2018 opened up a whole new world of Asian dramas to me, and I've been hooked ever since. 4 years later, Tea and Soju was born, so that I can extend my love of Chinese dramas and Asian dramas in general to others out there and find a community. So, sit back and let's chat Asian dramas. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and in today's episode, we are jumping back into the guest series. In this episode, I'm very excited because I have a guest. Her name is Mofu, and she will be talking to me about something that I love, but I don't necessarily know that much about, and that is the world of Hanfu in general. Now, if you don't know what Hanfu is, we will get into all of that a little bit later. But first of all, I would just hand you over to Mofu for her to introduce herself. So go ahead, Mofu, go and introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, this is Mofu here. You probably know me by my handle Mofu Gunyang. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I'm a Chinese Australian based in Sydney, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
That is it. That is the basic introduction. I actually discovered you because of your Instagram videos. A friend of mine shared one of your videos, and I was so curious that I went in and kind of like binged most of your content. And I was so happy to see like you're pretty knowledgeable about, Hanfu and just in general. I really like the vibe of your content. So I was like, I really wanted to have you on the podcast and kind of like talk about something that, I'm not that well versed in at all. So let's jump. We've
Thank
got
you.
you're
Oh,
very
sorry.
yeah, no, you're fine. You're very welcome. So let's jump into some questions. Now, this one may be a little bit obvious of a question, but how did you come to enjoy Chinese dramas?
Yeah, so I grew up like sort of watching general Chinese dramas. Like my dad, sorry, no, my granddad, he
Mm-hmm.
really liked police procedurals. So I just kind of watched it when I was like in China visiting my grandparents. But when it came to things like costume dramas, I think the first time like I sat down to watch one was because I saw on Tumblr everyone sharing stills from Empress of China, and people were talking about how beautiful the costumes were. So I started watching it, but to be honest, I didn't really like the story, so it kind of yeah, it kind of like cut my interest short.
Oh
Um,
no.
yes, yeah, but that's okay because it was still there at the back of my mind, and I sort of knew about it. And then in more recent years, like during the pandemic, actually for a year before the pandemic, my friends had been telling me like, oh, like you should watch The Untamed. We think you'll really like the main character.
Yeah, The Untamed is a classic drama.
Yeah, so yeah, I thought okay, like once it was yeah, so it was released in 2019. I think I watched it in 2020 because I was thinking, wow, I've got like nothing to do. I just suddenly thought, oh, there was something on that watch list, like and I was like browsing Netflix, and I was like, hang on, like one of my friends mentioned this. So I started watching it, and it just escalated from there.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole, is it? Once you find that drama that kind of pulls you in, that's it. You've gone down the rabbit hole and there is no turning back at that point.
Exactly.
And The Untamed is one of those stories. I'm actually rewatching it because I'm doing something for a another podcast about it. And
Mhm.
actually, I've been rewatching it, and I found that it holds up in terms of, my love for the story originally. Um, so yeah, it's one of those dramas that is just exploded onto the scene. And I think I also watched it in
Mhm.
2020, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think I didn't
Mhm.
watch it until 2020 as well. So, um, yeah, so I did write this question down, but it isn't anything. So, are you fluent in Mandarin? Do you speak Mandarin? Are you fluent in
I feel like when it comes to like chatting casually in Mandarin, I'm
Mhm.
pretty good. But when it comes to like reading and writing, I'm not. I would say I have like first grade knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I joke to my friends who ask me, I'm like, I'm the equivalent of an illiterate peasant in ancient China. So,
Oh
yeah.
no. But
Yeah.
so when you're just watching a drama, would you still have like your English subtitles on, or are you okay like listening to it and like just gathering the information from listening to it?
Actually, yeah, so I do keep subtitles on, but for the most part, I do understand like the more casual conversation. It is because they use more archaic language at times that
Yeah.
that I kind of have to keep on. But when I watch like modern dramas, I don't really look at the subtitles that much.
Yeah, I've actually heard that from a couple of friends who, are either they either live they're British Chinese, or that, they live in various parts of the world, but they are originally either, second descendant immigrants or whatever it may be, and they still speak Mandarin, and quite often they will also say that whether if it's the historical type that the Chinese used is actually quite different to the modern one. So they
Yeah.
kind of need those subtitles to help them, along.
Yeah. It's
I
kind of like, oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
It's kind of like when you're watching Shakespeare
Yeah.
or listening or reading Shakespeare's plays, like you have to sort of like think a bit more about it because it's not quite modern English, even
Mm.
as like a modern precursor to English. But then yeah, there's a lot of terminology where it's like, yeah, if especially if even for native speakers, it's like a little bit more difficult. I remember when I learned Shakespeare, I was like, like I can't read any of this, but yeah, so for second language, it's also kind of like yeah, a bit more thinking to it.
Yeah, I totally get that because so I'm not a native English speaker in general. I'm originally from Portugal. My, native tongue's
Oh.
Portuguese. And but I grew up in the UK and I studied high school here and whatnot. So but actually when it came to Chinese, and not to Chinese, to like learning about Shakespeare and like that part of it, I was like, this
Mhm.
is not even like, this is a whole different world of English. It's not, it's
Yes.
completely different to anything I've learned so far. So I
Yes.
totally get like that comparison is always a really good comparison when it comes to like talking about modern set dramas and like historical set dramas.
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
I've started to learn Mandarin, but it feels like it's going to be a lifelong journey. I don't feel like it's going to be it's going to be one of those things where, I've picked up, actually it's funny how much you can pick up from hearing the same words said over and over again in like various different dramas. You can
Yeah,
sort
I
of
was
pick
about to
up
say.
you
You have an
can
excuse to watch more dramas
yeah.
because you will learn.
It is actually, yeah, it is quite fascinating that, sometimes I get very excited whenever I'm watching something and I don't actually need the subtitles to kind of like figure out what they're saying. I get
Mhm.
very excited when that
Yes,
doesn't
that's
happen very
good.
often, but yeah, I get very excited about it.
No,
So,
fair enough. That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely shows that you're learning as well.
yeah. Right. So, I put down a question, but you kind of already answered that it's The Untamed. I kind of said, what was your first Chinese drama? And apart from those that the one that you really gave attention to was The Untamed, which that's
Yeah.
quite a high, drama to go. It's dedication. Because did you start with the 50 episode one?
Um, yeah, I did actually. I
Yeah.
think yeah, it's not too bad because I think during like the past 10 years I did watch like I watched like a lot of TV shows that you sort of had to like watch a lot of episodes for, so I
Mm.
didn't think it was too bad.
Because I feel like a lot of people, they will always say, and I always find it interesting, right? Because a lot of these people that will say this are people that come from a background of watching American TV shows. And I'm like,
Mhm.
look, American TV shows can sometimes run for, 300 episodes. That's a lot of episodes.
Yes.
So we're good. If Chinese are only running for 50 or 60 episodes, it's not that bad. Because I know,
Yeah, although oh sorry, I think but yeah, I think I did see like recently with all the writer strikes that people were mentioning how like a lot of the dramas, American dramas, they TV shows, they have become shorter and shorter over time. So I sort of get it.
yeah. And honestly, I feel like that would be a welcome change into like the US TV
Mm.
industry in general, because I feel like some of these shows they just go on and on and on and on. And I'm like, gee, that's a lot of seasons. That's a lot of seasons. I think it was like Supernatural
Oh
recently,
yes.
and that was like, was it 18 or 19 seasons or something? And
Yeah.
that's like a season a year. So it'd been running for a really long time at this
Yeah, that's
point.
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I did. I think I did watch like 4 seasons of Supernatural, so I didn't feel like C dramas were too like difficult
like,
because of that. But I think a
yeah.
lot of I don't think you could have a Supernatural like now. Like a lot of the dramas, the TV shows that America, it's like 6 episodes, 13 episodes max.
Mm.
And I'm like, what is this?
What's happening? What's happening?
Yeah,
To be honest, I haven't dipped my toes back into American TV in a really long time. Just
that's fair enough.
because, yeah, in general, Asian TV just keeps me very, very busy. There's lots of it.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
And I tend to, not dip back into I think I did try and watch one American drama. I think it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was a couple of months ago, and I was like, "Oh my God, I understand what they're saying. Like I don't need subtitles. What's happening?" It was a bit yeah, it felt a little bit strange there for a second because I did not need subtitles a for a while.
Mhm.
So, next question. I think you kind of answered this one a little bit. I kind of added this one, but I hope it's okay. It's just
Yeah.
how long have you been watching Chinese dramas? And I know you've already mentioned you used to watch them with your grandparents when you used to visit back in China. But have you noticed anything like kind of change with Chinese dramas along the period of time that you kind of like have watched, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think because it's slightly different genres, it's a little bit hard to tell.
Mm.
But I did look back. Like I've been trying to I wanted to watch some more classic like wuxia dramas, and I had a look at some of like the trailers and stuff, and I found that the older ones looked like they looked really like I don't know, like outdated in terms of technology kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's even once a few years ago, I'm like, I was quite surprised that there's been like a lot of advancements in like CGI and just
Mm.
polishing the recording in general.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the like major things, and you can notice it even more in like Xianxia, because even if you watch Xianxia from 5 years ago to the Xianxia that we're getting now, it's like it's so different. But I have heard
Mm,
that when it comes to wuxia, they like the people that I've talked to about it, and specifically a friend of mine who is from Hong Kong, and a lot of wuxia does, a lot of really
yeah,
good wuxia comes from Hong Kong. They have said actually that the wuxia back then it was a lot better than it is now. You don't get like a lot of true wuxia nowadays, like with the fight scenes and
yeah,
everything. And
that's true.
I have wanted to watch some, but guess what, they're not subtitled. You can't find them with English subs very easily, so I haven't
Yeah,
been able to go back and sort of watch those, but that is on my list to
yeah.
go
I
back. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I would. I'm not really surprised with the with I'm guessing stuff like say like what's it called, the stunts, I imagine would be
Yeah, yeah,
probably would have been a bit better back then than now. I yeah, because like I have heard some some people have mentioned that some choreography is good, but then yeah, there are I have heard of changes in like the overall amount of it. So I would
yeah.
assume that it's not as good in terms of aspects like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also what I've heard a lot that she's mentioned specifically, it's the fact that back then they would do a lot of their own stunts, whereas now not as many
Oh, yes.
actors do. So when you're talking about it, you're talking about
Mhm.
like the greats, like, people that would be very widely known, like, Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and those
Mm.
type of people. And even like recently, Michelle Yeoh,
Yeah.
she used to do a ton of wuxia and she used to do a lot of her stunts and everything. But yeah,
Mhm.
apparently the wuxia now isn't actually, it's really hard to find a true wuxia drama nowadays because they just don't really yeah, work as well as back then. So
Mhm.
who
Yeah, fair
knows?
enough.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a revival of wuxia one of these days. Who knows?
Mhm.
Right. So let's get into like what we're mostly, going to focus about because it's a topic that I don't really know anything about. So would you like, I kind of didn't write this down, but I think it's probably good. What would you give just a small like description of what, Hanfu is in general? Like what is the word, attached to for people like very, very simply if you can.
Yeah, so I would say it's historical, historical and cultural Chinese dress, that between the periods of like 2000 years ago to, um, I guess in terms of how to about 400 years ago, very much there is still like, some debate on how much of the Qing dynasty would be considered harmful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I pretty much you could say, yeah, historical dress is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I see, I always find this because I feel like with China, there's such a vast history. There's like so much of it to cover. It's a little bit crazy of like just how much history. It's a country that's really rich in history. So I always find it quite fascinating. So,
Yeah.
how did you personally kind of like stumble across Hanfu and how did you kind of like find your interest for it?
Yeah, so I did I vaguely knew about it for a few years. I remember like because I've been a cosplayer for 10 years, I do remember like using some of handful tutorials for certain cosplays. And also because my cousin who she works in the ACG, which is the anime cosplay gaming business in China.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I think a few years ago she wanted to take me to a handful studio, but unfortunately it was closed during like I think it was due to a public holiday that was
Oh
closed. So I didn't really
no.
yes. It's like just one after the other.
Bad timing, such bad timing.
But yeah, so that was I think even maybe a year or two or maybe a few more years before I like before the pandemic. But yeah, a bit more recently, I think right before the pandemic, one of my close friends, she really got into Hanfu as well. And she wanted me to help with a photo shoot. So while I did that, she told me a lot more about it. So I sort of learned bits and pieces here and there from that. Yeah. I think it was more like, yeah, watching when it comes to like when it came to like sort of putting a name to the dress, it was kind of like after I sort of connected the dots when yeah, when I started watching more Chinese dramas.
Yeah. Yeah, because they use quite a bit of Hanfu. Well, all of their historical stuff will be Hanfu based.
Mhm.
I feel like I always love watching like your videos because I feel like Hanfu just looks so beautiful in general, and I feel
Thank
like
you.
you have, your videos come up. If guys, if you're listening to this, I will link Mofu's page down in the description notes. Go do yourselves a favor and go check it out because I really love her content. And I honestly love like I just really enjoy watching. Now I have no talent for, I have quite a few friends who do cosplay and they've gone all over the place to work with it and whatnot, and I have no talent for it, but I really appreciate and love seeing other people do it. So um I always just enjoy watching, and I feel like Hanfu has really kind of like blown up a little bit more over
Hmm.
the past couple of years. So
Yeah.
so from that like initial contact that you had with it, how did you kind of like start to dive a little bit deeper? Did you want to like start learning more about the historical context behind it? How did you like go about that?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it was kind of like because as you watched more, you noticed that there were like different types
Mm-hmm.
of handful, and then you start learning that there's like different different eras, and then each era has like different sort of like silhouettes and trends and that sort of thing. So the more I watched costume dramas, the more I wanted to start learning about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot to learn. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface even now.
Yeah, there's so much, isn't there? Have you, right, bit of an out of the blue question. Which time periods have you, if you've like, because obviously I've seen that you have worn Hanfu, which time periods have you kind of like worn Hanfu from, if that makes sense?
Yeah. In terms of like ones that I've owned that like time periods that I own handful from, I would say let me think. I'd say the Qin and Han dynasty,
Mm.
Wei and Jin dynasties, Tang dynasty, Song dynasty, and Ming dynasty. Um, yeah, I do have north like a northern and southern dynasty one, but it's not 100% accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's yeah, I do have from there. But then I think from some of the more like the shorter and more niche dynasties, I don't really have that much of.
Yeah,
Um yeah, but other than that, I think I do have like from like the like majority of the dynasties, I do have at least
something.
like one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you,
Yeah.
is it quite hard to get a hold of like Hanfu, or do you get it when you go back to China, or is it easy to get, where you are, or how do you go?
Oh yeah, so it's pretty good. It's like so I get them all from Taobao, and um Taobao does ship directly to Australia, which is very dangerous for my wallet.
I did not know that. I'll have to see if they ship to like because I don't know. Is that
I
like
think
an app that you kind of have to use like you have to use Chinese credentials on, or can you use like if that do you know what I'm trying to ask?
yes, yeah, I get what you mean. You don't no, you don't have to have a Chinese phone number or anything like that for Taobao. Like you can I just used my Australian number, and like yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't need, because like yeah, since I can use it, I think it depends on where it's available.
Yeah.
Um I think it should. Are you based in England? Is that right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. In the
I
UK, yeah, yeah.
think it is available to ship directly to England.
Oh, you've
You
just
can.
opened a whole can of worms here. I feel like now it's
Yes.
going to be dangerous to my wallet.
I was about to say, I'm like, I'm sorry for what I have just said. Yeah, there's lots of tutorials online for how to use it, because it is in the app is in Chinese, but like because you can do things like you can screenshot things and then translate through Google Translate,
Mm,
um, and like you can follow the tutorials. It's not too bad.
too
Yeah,
bad. Oh, goodness. I'm going to be
very
in
dangerous.
trouble now. I'm going to have a
Yes.
little look because I am a sucker for getting like what's the word? For getting drama merch in general.
Oh
I
yes.
love merchandise, like, if you can see, but like you guys won't be able to see if you're listening, but I have like a whole like BTS merch like stand, but
Mhm.
in it there's like things from The Untamed and things from like Word of Honor and Love Between Fairy and Devil, and it is hard to get a hold of these things. Like the recently aired, they did Yoku release Till the End of the Moon, and they had like
Mhm.
these little figurines, and I was really excited. They don't ship to the UK. So I
Oh.
yeah, it's hard, but I eventually like found it elsewhere through, a Go group order kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it's like if Taboo sends directly to the UK, I'm gonna be in trouble because I might have to.
Yes, I think because yeah, I did order like the most recent Heaven's Official Blessing series like directly
Mm.
from like the new edition that was
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
translated. Yeah, I got that like directly from Taobao and it's like cheaper than getting it from
Oh my God,
a
that would
group
be
order. So
yeah. I think you
yeah,
can
so
get
it's
it.
good.
I think Heaven's Official Blessing, we've been able to like do you mean the book or the
Oh, so I meant it's the book, but it's the in Chinese, but it's like I think it's the new edition that's like after the edit that she's done. I
oh,
do
okay.
also, yeah. I do also have like I've been steadily buying the Seven Seas translation
Mm-hmm.
so that I can read it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. Because I was gonna say they do the on Amazon, they do the Heaven's Official Blessing in like translated. But I think they're probably like way, way, way behind because they release a couple here and there. The drama that seems that will never happen, but
Yeah.
so right. Let's see. Like, so my next question is, how accurate do you think like historical dramas do like Hanfu is to what it was in history itself?
Yeah, so I think it definitely yeah, definitely varies depending on the genre and the budget. I do think when it comes to like say like historical C dramas, there's definitely more of a focus on being accurate, but there's
Hmm.
still many dramas that take like liberties with the designs. Um, I think that being said, I do think that sometimes if they're not certain about things, like they might do it because they're trying to signal a particular message, like maybe they're trying to signal that a particular character is say like from a particular ethnic minority or that
Hmm.
kind of thing, but sometimes it might be anachronistic because we won't like they it might not be the correct like say piece of clothing in that era, or say like sometimes it could be like the wrong color versus cut, like things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. But I do think things like I guess Xianxia and Wuxia do take like more liberties because they're based on a
Yeah.
fantasy. Yeah.
Uh,
And oh sorry.
yeah, no, yeah, it's fine. I was gonna say, yeah, I always think their costuming for Xiantians and all of those, they're always very different to, historical dramas in general.
Hmm. Yeah. So they do try to make it more like I guess overall say like with Xianxia, they want to make it more ethereal if if there's a story about like gods and goddesses kind of thing.
Hmm.
I do think they do take inspiration from certain eras though. Like for Xianxia, I think they do take a bit more from like the Tang and Song dynasties, and for Wuxia, like Wei and Jin dynasties and the Song dynasty with liberties, which kind of makes sense era wise because the most iconic wuxia for the genre is Water Margin, which is also known as Outlaws or the Marsh or All Men Are Brothers, and it was set specifically in the Song Dynasty.
Oh, that's really interesting. I did not know that, but that's really interesting, and it kind of makes sense that then they would base a lot of their costumes in that era, knowing that that's, where the most popular one kind of came out of.
Yeah, exactly. And also it also like I guess like eras I guess also on a similar vein, the Tang Dynasty is like a big inspiration for Xianxia because as it's a golden era, it would have been a time period associated with like prosperity. And
Mm-hmm.
it was also when Buddhism and spirituality was at an all-time high. So
Oh, this is
a
really
lot, yeah.
fascinating because I don't know any of this. So to me, I'm just like, being a little sponge and absorbing all that you're saying. I always find that like the costuming in Xianxia is so like I don't know, it's always very flowy and very beautiful to look at. But
Mhm.
I will say, I love the fact that we're swapping it out a little bit in recent Xianxia. You're kind of like seeing different color palettes because in
Mhm.
older Xianxia, they tend to lean in a lot into the like the white and that
Mhm.
sort of color. But recently with dramas like Love Between Fairy and Devil, and even more like Till the End of the Moon, they seem to like be
Yes.
using a lot more of the you know dark color palettes. And I will
Mhm.
say, I love Till the End of the Moon in general, but their costuming, it really was really, really like beautiful to look at. I don't know if you've watched it or
Yeah.
if you've seen
I
um
watched most of it until I got distracted by a video game that released recently. But I did watch most of it. I was looking forward to it because I love Law Yunxi.
Oh my, he's one of my favorite actors. Like, and he just looks ridiculously good in like period costume in general.
Exactly,
I
like
feel like he has the look for that, period costume. Um,
yeah. Yeah,
so
that is not a he's beautiful, but that is not a modern face. Like he needs he I always joke
exactly.
I always joke that like he's supposed to be like, this beautiful ethereal man um in like the Jin dynasty, and that everyone else like we need to be like trying to like follow him, but we can only
Yeah.
be stuck outside the palace walls,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I was having this conversation actually, and I kind of said and it kind of ties into what we're talking about into Hanfu in general. I feel like nowadays, like I get it, not everybody back in those days, not everybody would have looked good in Hanfu. But if you're gonna put an actor on screen in Hanfu, make sure that they look like they have to have the face for it, because otherwise
Yes.
it looks strange to me. Like, I know it's a very vain comment, but there is some actors and actresses that just have like too much of a, I don't know, modern face or whatever it may be, and they just
Mhm.
do not look like right in the Hanfu costume. So
Mhm.
yeah, Lu
I
Yunqi
think
is
it's
definitely one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. He does look great, and I do think that some of it is also like with the makeup and the styling that yeah, I think some of it may either one, it doesn't translate well for some people. Like I think for me, I know I if I do like very say like time accurate makeup, I don't think it translates well on camera
Yeah.
either. But then yeah, some people like I do think some of the styling doesn't really consider a lot of their features sometimes. Yeah, they might not necessarily if they're sort of like stuck doing the same kind of makeup for everybody when that may not necessarily work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Actually, you've just made me like think of a little different question. Have
Mhm.
you ever like kind of used like whenever you do your makeup and whatnot, do you always use like modern products, or do you like have you ever been able to try like something that is an older product, if that makes sense?
Oh yeah, I get what you mean, but yeah, I don't really use like sort of like I don't really use makeup products that would be like I guess but like more traditionally made if that
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like it's definitely more like modern products because I think it's also harder to gain like sort of to get access to
Mm.
older style of makeup. I have seen like really nice videos where people like where they're like making like traditional style foundation and lipsticks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like the lipstick paper
Oh my
and things like
gosh,
that.
yes. I that is like such a common thing. I always see that on screen, like
Mhm.
the lipstick paper, and I'm always fascinated. And I'm like, would this even work? Like I always think it because it just feels like something that wouldn't work, if that makes sense. I'm sure it
Mhm.
does, but yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's just very different to like what we use now.
Mm.
And I do think, yeah, I think the thing is that a lot of the makeup back then was not really like obviously because they had no cameras, so it wasn't really designed for
Yeah.
cameras, but because makeup that's not designed for like be if it's designed to look good in person, it will just simply look washed out when it's on camera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I get, yeah, they would definitely have to do like quite different makeup for I one of my friends, she finished up her she's a professional, makeup artist, and she finished up her
Mm.
course um I think a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and like
Mhm.
it's quite different to see her works for like, just day to day, like if she's doing, a job for just somebody who wants a makeup look for that day or whatever, or when she's working for like camera work. It's like it's so different, because camera they do, like you say, just wash you out. So
Mm. Yeah. Yes. It is, it can be really surprising, but yeah. I guess it always helps like when you're thinking of doing makeup for the camera, like always put on more than you think you'll need and
mm.
then take a selfie and then put on more makeup.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely sounds about right. um so let's so next question. Which era is your favorite in terms of like Hanfu? Which one really like grabs your attention?
Yeah, I think I'll always be a Tang Dynasty girly through and through.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that it's design wise, I just love the colors and the silhouette. And I really like the fabrics that are generally used are a lot more cooler, which is really good for the weather
Yeah, I
here,
bet. Yeah.
overseas. Yeah. Yeah.
um
So I really like that.
what colors are usually associated with like the Tang Dynasty?
I think I think like the teal and orange. You might have seen that in Till the End of the Moon.
I have. I loved those. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's like yeah, that's also yeah, those costumes particularly, they're actually you might have seen posts about it, but they're from the like specifically the grottos in that was made during the Tang Dynasty dedicated to Buddhism.
Really?
Yeah. So they're like a Chinese um they're a Chinese adaptation of Indian apsaras.
Oh my God, really? I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Till
It's
the End of the
pretty
Moon. Those,
interesting.
yeah, those orange costumes, they're really stunning. They're actually one of my favorite costumes out of all of
Yeah.
the drama. I just find it like, and also there's a lot of like intricate details in all of those costumes. I will say I'm a really, really big sucker for any like wedding scene in
Hmm.
Chinese historical dramas, just because like
Yes.
I always feel really bad when they don't give me a wedding scene. Not necessarily because I want the wedding. I just want to look at the wedding dress and like the wedding like costume, because of like all
Yes.
the intricate like embroidery and everything that goes on there, the phoenix crown, and I get
Hmm.
fascinated. They really are stunning to look at. I
Yeah, it looks so good.
Yeah, I bet it must take like hours to work on something like that intricate. I think
Hmm.
one of my favorite historical dramas ever, the story itself isn't like what makes it one of my favorites, but it's a drama called The Sword and the Brocade.
Oh,
And
hang on. I mean, sorry, I have watched it. Not read it. I've
yeah,
watched
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it
I
because it
enjoyed it.
was it wasn't necessarily the story. I really wasn't a fan of like the male lead's kind of like story and like whatever he was
Oh, yes.
doing. What I was a fan of was like this beautiful embroidery that they would do. And I was like, this is stunning to look at. And I
Yeah.
actually really loved the costumes in that as well. They were really, really beautiful to, and I always think like Western costumes Yes, they are, also beautiful. Historical costumes can be beautiful in any country, but like whenever
Mhm.
it comes to Asia, I just feel like the attention to detail is like much greater. And I also have an appreciation for actors who have to record these things in summertime because
Oh
I bet they're
yeah.
wearing 3,000 layers and they probably feel it. Um,
Yes. Yeah, I recently did a cosplay of Xue Yang from The Untamed.
oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and like the costume was like mostly pleather and it was so
Oh
heavy.
God.
I was like thinking, damn, like how did the actor do this?
I'm always like, how do they move and still kind of like make it
Yeah.
somewhat graceful wearing all of these like layers? Because I don't know. I don't know if this is a question, a question that you would know the answer to, but do you know like roughly how many layers they actually have on, in a standard costume, do you think?
If they're anything like the ones that are on Tobo, I would say like
Even
three to four
so,
layers.
yeah,
Yeah.
even so, that feels like that feels stifling a little bit, like movement
Yeah.
wise. You must have to be able to, I don't know, move your body in a certain way to. God, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of layers, but then like all of those layers give the movements such beautiful, flowiness, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it looks it yeah, I mean like to be fair, the layers, it's not like oh, like a t-shirt and then like a cardigan. The layers are like the whole front top to body, huge
God,
sleeves, so they are
yeah.
definitely a lot heavier as well.
Mm.
But yeah, it does look so good when when the wind is billowing and they're flying through the air.
Goodness. Right. And that actually leads us into quite a nice question because I I just sort of said, what do you think are some of like the different like what are some seasonal hanfus and like what makes them different? Because I'm not sure if you know, like is there a difference in materials that were used? Because obviously I think there would be a difference between, dynasties, but is there like a very stark difference between, summer and winter, I would say, or is it like do they use a lot of the same throughout the year?
Oh, right. Yeah. So I think within each dynasty they would have um oh, I vaguely remember reading something about this. They would have they would definitely have lighter fabrics during like summer, and then they
Yeah.
have like fabrics with like more um thread thread count. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, thread count.
if
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes
that
sense. I'm
would
like,
be. Yeah,
is that
yeah,
the
yeah,
right
yeah.
terminology?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
for
that is.
winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, so yeah, they would have had differences between those seasons. I think some I think also like between seasons, sorry, I think even between dynasties, because like during because for example, like the Tang dynasty in general was like a lot hotter in temperature than the Ming and Han dynasties.
Oh, so it would make sense that there would be a difference there even between dynasties themselves.
Yeah, and that because yeah, that's why they would choose they chose heavier fabrics for Ming Dynasty, which are usually like brocade like fabrics, and then the Han
Mm-hmm.
Dynasty seemed to have like yeah the higher thread counts, whereas the Tang Dynasty is like very like light silk kind of
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
very like thin silks, while the Han Dynasty has like a lot thicker ones.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and oh no, I just had a point in my head that I was thinking of and
Oh
I'm like, what's I gonna say?
no.
But oh yeah, no. So basically like a lot of the modern fabrics, even if they're not a lot of modern handful, even if they're not like exactly one-to-one creations, they do choose fabrics that sort of like replicate
Mm-hmm.
and reflect those kind of fabric choices. So yeah, it's also why like handful like Tang Dynasty ones are a lot better for summer and a lot more breathable compared to say Han and Ming, which I prefer in the winter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel even worse now for any actor or actress recording like a
Yes.
historical like Han or Ming Dynasty drama in summertime because they're gonna be
Yeah.
oh
I think
goodness.
even in winter, if they're doing it indoors and under a lot of light, it can get really hot. It's like,
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
just can't imagine. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah, I would
pretty
forget.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I forget that they also have these scorching lights on them that adds to the but I will say there are those, right? Those sometimes those dramas where you see them record in, Henggen Studios or wherever
Mhm.
they may be
Yeah.
recording, and you can like physically see their breaths coming out. So I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, maybe they could use a little bit. So maybe it
Mhm.
works the other way around as well if they're recording something that's Tang Dynasty or whatever with the more flowy in winter, then maybe they're not. Right. Next question I just had, and this is, I think, quite an interesting one because I think, um, throughout history in general, clothing can very quickly tell you what kind of like class you're in. So, how does like hand food change like throughout like class, do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, pretty much um before the past 100 years, like in general, clothing was just like so much more expensive. And I think there was also like I think there was also like a bit more respect for like textile artisans back in the day than
Mm,
there are now, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, I based on that, like a lot of the time, people from say like the working class, they wouldn't really be able to afford more than like one or two, probably maybe not more than one handful, and they would be like using cheaper materials, less
yeah.
colors. Yeah, and they'd be like patching it up over and over again, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'd probably be wearing it in a style that was like a lot more comfortable, so they wouldn't really have like any. It wouldn't be as heavy
Yeah.
as well. Whereas, yeah, a lot of like the nobility and ultra wealthy, they would definitely be having like more sumptuous um handful that they would have help putting it on as well, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
wouldn't yeah, and they wouldn't need to wash it themselves either. So like they would just choose whatever. Whereas like yeah, so they would choose a lot more like beautifully colored ones, and styles that could have like a lot of, I guess, lots of things that are like with the jewelry and the accessories, a lot of like bits
Yeah.
and stuff hanging off them kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean there was also like regulations as well for what you could wear for like colors and emblems.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask this. So is there
Yeah.
like a color that's just reserved for say like the emperor and things like that? Is there like a color that nobody else can really use? Because say for
Mhm.
example in Korea, I think it's red that is for the emperor and then black is for the crown prince or whatever it may be. Is there something that kind of like translates that is similar in China as well?
Yeah, yeah, there is, and I think it also depends on what era it is as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't really research men's for as
Yeah,
much as
yeah,
I
yeah,
do,
makes
but I
sense. Yeah.
think from what I remember, um, early on, like in the Han Dynasty, it was like um, I think it was red and black as well.
Yeah.
But then in more later dynasties, it was like a yellow gold fabric
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah, we
only like
see
the
that.
emperor could wear. Yeah.
Yeah, we see you kind of see that a lot actually in dramas where the emperor does tend to have like this almost like golden yellowy color that he tends
Mhm.
to wear. Because I know color is probably also really important because even specifically back in those days, I'm sure there would be colors that would be really hard to replicate and use and
Oh
therefore made
yes.
them really expensive. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. I think there were I'm like not 100% sure off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember that purple was one of them, but I don't
Yeah.
remember how that I don't remember like seeing it when I've been looking at artifacts, but I don't think I've
Yeah.
been looking at enough artifacts either. But I do know that like say even say between like court officials, like what color you could wear, like depends on your ranking. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
first class scholar, second class, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, it was like I think it was like red, green, and blue. And that
Yeah.
was more from the Ming Dynasty, but I think there would have been differences as well for throughout the eras.
Yeah. I always just find it fascinating because now it's like, color, we just wear whatever color we want nowadays. Like it's not,
Yeah.
and like colors are easily accessible in clothing, but like back then it was
Mhm.
such like a process that you couldn't even, there's some colors that you probably couldn't even get in clothing, and even if you did, you might not be able to wear them at all because they might be reserved for a different type of class. So I find it, it is quite fascinating to sort of, learn more about that and like how color was used to even just, you could look at someone and kind of like see what kind of rank they were just by the color of what they were wearing. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that they had such a thing. I mean, I guess yeah, the good thing about the modern days that if you like a color now, you can just wear it without being
mm.
without worrying about like, getting getting your head lopped off for it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think like so for Western, I think like it's more the fact that throughout history, the bigger your clothes, like, the more detailed your clothes, but not necessarily the colors of them. Whereas, in Asia, I feel like color was like a really big part of, the system. So yeah.
Yeah.
So, another question, and this can be like from what your experience with them, but do you know, like what kind of material most modern like day hanfu is made of? Is there like one that is more used, or like what you can answer that just from like the hanfu that you own yourself? Like, is
Mhm.
there a common material that's more used?
Yeah, so I think again it does also depend on like the budget that you have for the handful that you want to wear as well.
Mm-hmm.
Generally the more affordable ones they all that you'll be able to get them in like polyester and with like different varying maybe variations of polyester and say like cotton.
Yeah.
But if you yeah, but if you want something like a bit like nicer to wear, you can get like you can also get say silk and cotton or linen, which are
Mm-hmm.
a lot more comfortable to wear, I think, compared to polyester. But some of like the really like fun modern sort of styles are all kind of like in polyester, although they can be a bit more comfortable uncomfortable in like really hot days.
Oh, I bet those, yeah. I would assume that, cotton, especially the silk. I bet like any of the like silk ones are probably they must cost quite a pretty penny to get a hold of.
Yeah, I think you can also like they do sell like maybe like the silk ones that are like not as like high quality silk, but they're
Yeah.
still really comfortable. So they're a bit more affordable and you can like say like get like parts of it if you don't want to buy like the whole thing. So like maybe something like inner pants or like an inner like shirt
Mm-hmm.
um to sort of like
Just pad
so
it
that you don't
out.
yeah yeah so you because like the skirts generally like the most like longest in terms of fabric so it would cost the most so yeah if
Yeah.
you can like sort of get bits of it I think there are also like handful that do that where to save sort of like costs as well.
So they would make that would actually be quite, good. You'd get like the inners in, your, a little bit more comfortable material because that's what's directly touching your
Mhm.
skin, and then like get the outer layers, so to speak, in cheaper material. I bet it must be expensive as heck to do like a full drama costume, just in general. I was looking, and I think they were saying for Till the End of the Moon, they had something ridiculous, like almost 4,000 sketches of like Hanfu and like different costumes for that
Mhm.
drama. And I'm like, that is insane. And the thing is, there is a lot of the time they probably just have one of each costume. And I'm like,
Mm.
what if it gets wrecked? Do you just have to like whip up another one?
Oh, I think maybe for some of them they might have multiple ones then, if it's for like the main character.
They
Otherwise, I can't imagine they'd want to like,
There must be, because like especially
yeah.
for Till the End of the Moon, the amount of blood spitting
Yeah,
that was happening, surely that's
exactly.
gonna ruin costumes. That's definitely gonna ruin a couple of costumes in the making.
Yes,
But
yeah, I think so.
right. Moving back to, I think, now some Chinese dramas in general, I just have a couple of questions, and
Mhm.
it was, what are some of like your favorite genres to watch? When you do tune in, what are some of your favorite genres to watch?
Yeah, I think my favorite would be like the historical
Mm.
mystery ones. So um things like Sleuth of Ming Dynasty.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one. I think you should watch that if you liked The Untamed and Word of Honor.
I did.
Yeah, I
I
think you'll
did.
like that.
Oh, I'll have to
Yeah.
add this to my very long list, but I will have to add it. I've heard really good things about that one, actually.
Yeah, it's good and like because it's yeah, it's based also like the novel that's based off is a BL as well, I think, like a
Yeah,
danmei.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um although it's more like more tame compared to MDZS, but
Yeah,
it
I've
is
heard.
still yeah.
I've been making my way through the like MZ ZS novels, and yeah, they
Mhm.
are definitely in nowhere near as tame.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And yeah, so I definitely recommend Sleuth of Ming Dynasty. While I'm at it, actually, you should also watch A League of Noblemen because I think it's kind of all in the same sort of like category of mystery and romance.
I have heard of this, haven't I? I'm just trying to think. I think I have heard of this drama, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'll have to
Oh,
look that one
actually,
up.
yeah, that one it came out in this year, actually. Yeah.
Wait, is that the one? The Who does it star? A league. I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have. I've definitely heard of a Sleuth of Ming Dynasty. So, and I bet there's some really nice costumes in that one as well.
Yes.
Right. And I think
Oh,
like
yes.
I think you've just answered the next question, but apart from those, what are like some of like your all-time favorite dramas that you've watched? And it doesn't necessarily have to be Chinese, just like some of your favorite dramas that you've watched of all time.
All right. Yeah. I guess to start off with, in terms of like the like favorite Chinese dramas, I guess I really
Hmm.
liked oh, I don't remember if I mentioned it, The Imperial Coroner.
That is on this has been on my list. At the time it came out, I wasn't able to watch it, and
Oh.
it kind of like got pushed back and pushed back. But I heard so many things, good things about this drama and like how well written it is and everything, that I definitely want to go and watch Imperial Coroner.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed it. And sorry, I also I think in terms of like I do also like the genres of like the court like the concubine palace intrigue
Yeah,
courtyard dramas.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
really yeah, so I really recommend like Rui's Royal Love in the Palace
Mm-hmm.
and Story of Ming Lang, but I think if you didn't like Sword of the Brocade, you might not necessarily like that one either.
So the thing is, for me, I love when the story like concentrates on like in-house politics as opposed to like old bearded man politics. Does that make sense to you? This is like
Oh, yes.
how I explain it. So if I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching something like when it came to The Sword and the Brocade, I loved like the in-house politics because I
Mm-hmm.
love like to see like how the harem moves and all of that sort of thing. I just don't necessarily like when the focus, I don't mind it if it's part of the story, but I don't necessarily enjoy it as much when the focus is like completely on like court intrigues. And by that is I mean, oh,
Oh,
this
yes.
minister is trying to stab this minister for more power, that kind of thing. That's something I don't
Oh,
enjoy
yes.
as much. But when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like concubine, those sort of in more like in-house politics, then
Yeah.
I live for that stuff. Like that's the stuff I really enjoy watching.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then I think, yeah, story of Ming Lang, it does have like a lot of the in-house politics. So that,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you might like that then.
A friend of mine, it's one of her all-time favorite dramas is the story of
Yes.
Minglan, and she keeps saying you need to watch it, you need to watch it. And I feel like I want to add like for the last couple of months of the year, I want to add like a really long Chinese drama that I can just sort of like pop in, watch a couple of episodes and then like go and then pop back in, if that makes sense, along
Oh, yeah.
with all of my on-air dramas. So I feel like A Story of Minglan has been talked about for a while, and I feel like that's a good one to do because it's a really long, I think it's like 72 episodes or something like that, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is quite long,
yeah, it'll
but
be
yeah.
one that you can just kind of like go, just steadily watch. So I feel like, that might be the one that I need to go and do because I have heard really, really good things about that one as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah. I think yeah. Yeah, I feel like I haven't really seen as many of like the concubine dramas like airing in the first place though recently, but I yeah, so as a result I've kind of been like moving into like whatever like Xianxia and Wuxia as well.
Hmm.
Um I think recently ones that I really enjoyed watching were Starry I think you watched that one,
The
right? The
Starry
Starry Love?
Love. I loved that one. I really
Yes.
loved that one. And you
It's
know
so
what?
good.
I loved all the purple that they used in that drama. It's
Yes.
beautifully done. Yes, I did really love the Starry Love. I wish they would have changed up that ending a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that ending. I like just give it one more episode and that drama could have been, everything and more.
Yes.
I feel less mad about it now than I did when I
Mhm.
first watched it, but yeah, I did really love the Starry Love. It was a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so good. Yeah. I think oh yeah, in terms of like other dramas from that I've seen that aren't necessarily like C dramas, let me think. I think I oh yeah, I really liked Crash Landing on You.
Yeah, the Korean drama. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so good.
That was. I actually, when I watched Crash Landing on EA, the first couple of episodes, I didn't watch it while it was on air, I don't think. Um, but the first couple of episodes I was watching and I was like, I don't understand why people are so, raving about this drama. And then it just kind of
Mhm.
clicked. But I actually do prefer, like, it's the small things that kind of add up in that drama. And I love when they go back to South Korea. That's like my favorite sweet spot of the drama.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is like a classic. I feel like that's a classic, especially like it's a pandemic classic,
Oh
isn't
yeah, that's right. I
it?
definitely watched it during then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that was like I think yeah, a lot of people watched that during the pandemic and it was just the right time to watch it as well. It was just like
Mm-mm.
perfect amount of like intrigue and romance
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it was beautiful, yeah. And yeah, I mean in terms of like other dramas that I've seen, that I really liked, like with like, do you have you seen like Tokyo Tokyo, the translation would be Tokyo What If Girls. It's like it's a J drama.
No, I haven't. What's it like? Or like what's it about? I haven't watched this one.
It is an older one. So it's based on this manga that I read, which is from my favorite mangaka, who also did Princess Jellyfish.
Oh yes, I
And
do know that one. I do, yes, I do
yes,
know that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed that one as well. One of my all-time favorites. And this one, Tokyo What If Girls, is about like um a 30-year-old woman who doesn't have like she's single and so are her two best friends, and then they're like they always commiserate about being single.
Mm-hmm.
And then like she's randomly encounters this younger guy who's a model, and like it's kind of like he sort of like is like, oh, like wow, like rude to them, and then they kind of like they have this sort of like enemies kind of moment, but then they keep
Oh.
running into each other, like the main character and him, they keep running into each other and they sort of learn more about each other, and it's just surprisingly really good. I was just like, oh, like, yeah, I just really enjoyed it.
That actually sounds really fun. I'll have to see that because I don't watch J dramas as much as I'd like to. So that I will definitely have to check. What if girls? That's what you
Yeah,
right.
the Japanese name is Tokyo Taradeba Musume.
Okay. I will definitely have to check that one out. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good variety of dramas you've got there. I always like when people like a wide, spread of things. It means you can, watch quite a few.
Yeah. Yeah, I just enjoy whatever, if as long as it has like a good storyline, I'll watch it, and I enjoy watching it that way.
Yeah, I think story is really important. It always needs to have like a good one, otherwise there's not really much of a point, is there?
Yeah.
Right. I think that is all of my questions. So we made it to the end. I thank you so much for coming on. I
Thank
had
you for
so
having
much
me.
fun chatting to you. I've learned a bunch of stuff that I did not know. I'm walking away with some recommendations to add to my ever-growing watching list, which is always, I'm walking away with possibly being in trouble with my wallet as well. But I have had a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really
So,
great chatting about.
just where can people find you? I will link your Instagram and whatnot, your socials down, but where
Mhm.
can people mostly find you?
Yeah, I'd say mostly on Instagram and TikTok on in the same handle.
Great. Right, do go check out her videos. I really do love your content again. So be
Thank
sure,
you.
yeah, I will definitely link all of that below. And thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thanks so much. It was really great chatting.
Want to find an Asian drama community? Then join the Tea and Soju Discord server, where we chat everything from C dramas to K dramas to J dramas. To chat with me, check out any of the socials. Please help the podcast by rating, viewing, and subscribing wherever you listen to help others find this little corner. Lastly, consider joining Patreon to further support the podcast and receive extra content. All of the links are in the episode description. That's it. This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju C Drama podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and I'll see you next week for more C Drama chatter.